7 eating habits the French avoid that American people do all the time. It's no secret that the French eating habits and the American eating habits are vastly different, and today we're going to be talking about the habits that are very common in the US, but French people, they don't do that. As usual for these videos, I do US versus France because I have lived in both countries in multiple different places within these countries, and I'm also a nutritionist, so I feel like I have a lot of information on the subject. But of course, these are still generalizations. Not everybody eats this way in France, not everybody eats this way in the US. The US is good at so many things that French people are really bad at, but food is not one of these things, and food is the topic of the video today. So habit number 1 that French people never do and that American people do all the time is eat in front of the TV. In France, meals are meant to be fully experienced, fully enjoyed, and you're meant to focus on just your meal and nothing else. And the fact that you would watch TV while you eat is just not at all something that is the cultural norm. And I say watch TV because it's like the most common thing, but it also goes for like checking emails or like watching stuff on your phone. Meals are meant to be fully experienced. Either you're on your own, you're eating your meal mindfully, you're focusing on your food, or you're sharing it with other people, you're in a social setting, and you are all talking about a bunch of things, discussing the meal, and you are enjoying the meal in that way. Whereas in the US, I feel like eating while you watch TV is almost the norm. And it's the same for working. A lot of American people will eat as they work, will eat as they scroll on their phone, eat as they do anything but share a meal with their family. But the problem when you do that is that eating becomes way more rushed and the pleasure of eating is kind of diluted. So it's much harder to gain satisfaction from the meal that you're eating, and you need to eat more in order to actually feel satisfied because you're not really focused on the full meal, you're not really in the moment or in the experience. Another thing that French people don't do is eat on the go. French people like to enjoy their mealtime, and they like to be able to sit down and actually focus on the meal that they're eating. And even if they don't have a lot of time, they would much rather sit down for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes on a bench, at a park, in their apartment, at a cafe, whatever, and eat their meal quickly rather than eating on the go. It's seen as strange, and it's frankly just not enjoyable. Whereas in the US, that is literally totally normal. People are walking and eating all the time. People are eating in their car as well, which is something that French people never do either. In France, even if you are on a road trip or something, you are going to stop to eat your food. You're gonna stop and take a little break. You're not gonna eat in the car. When we go to the drive-thru in France, first of all, it's rare, but when we do, we take it to go and then we eat it like at home, not in the car. I guess in the US, you really want to multitask, and eating is kind of seen as a waste of time sometimes. Whereas in France, it's such a great pleasure that you will take, even if it's a few minutes, you will make that time to enjoy it. Rushing through meals is another habit that American people have very often and that French people very rarely do. In France, mealtime is meant to be enjoyed. Mealtime is meant to be something that you take your time for. It's something that's an important part of the day, and usually, especially for dinner, it's a moment where you're going to be sitting down with your entire family, you're gonna be discussing your day, eating good food, and you're gonna make sure that you're eating slowly, that you're taking the time to chew, taking the time to appreciate your food, and taking the time to engage in discussions with other people around you. It's very natural in France that you're going to take a small bite of your meal and then pause, put your silverware down, and just have conversation with people around you. And then when you're done, when you're taking a break, you go back for another bite. Whereas in the US, again, meals are rushed. You want the meals to be efficient. You want to spend the least amount of time getting in the energy. It's like transactional. All the meals are rushed. Because in France, it happens. Some meals are rushed sometimes, of course, but in the US, that's the norm. Meals are not really important. Like, I know so many people who will tell me, oh, it's just not the priority. I have to take my kids to this practice and that practice, and there's this after school thing, and he's grabbing a drink and she's doing that and I'm doing this, and so we just don't have time for a meal as a family. And of course sometimes you don't have the time, but most of the time it's going to be the one thing on the calendar that we will move around the rest of the schedules in order to fit that in. Number 4 is a big one as well, and it is snacking all day. In France, meals are typically structured and satisfying. You have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and don't get me wrong, you can have a snack. That's no problem. However, it is like a mini meal that you're gonna have at a specific time in between lunch and dinner to hold you over. It's not going to be you taking a bag of chips and just grazing all day. Snacking in French has a very specific purpose. It's to hold you over until dinner so that you are not starving. And usually it is very common for kids to have it. They're gonna have maybe some bread with some nut butter or some chocolate and then a fruit. And it transfers for a lot of French people into adulthood, where they can have things like a couple biscuits or some yogurt or even like a small pastry or something to just hold them over. But again, it's something that is going to be a bit more nutritious than just chips or chocolate or candy. Snacking all day is just seen as very weird. Honestly, French people will eat chips, will eat chocolate, will eat whatever, and will snack, but it's just not throughout the entire day. It's not like, oh, I'm walking past the kitchen, let me grab a few chips, and then, oh, here's a little chocolate bar. You know what? I'm just gonna have like, you know, a couple pieces. No, the way it happens usually is you tune into how you're feeling. So if you start feeling hunger, you then look at the time. Is it a reasonable time? What is kind of a healthy-ish food that I can have to hold me over until dinner? That, or it's like a little treat. Like they're walking with their friends in Paris and they go get a little scoop of ice cream. In the US, people are always grabbing their snacks left and right, constantly eating God knows what. Every excuse is good to snack. Oh, you're going to watch a 1-hour movie? You need snacks. You're gonna go walk for an hour? You need snacks. Oh, you're going to the pool because it's hot? Well, don't forget a bunch of snacks. If you're constantly eating only a little bit, you're never truly going to feel full, but you're also never truly going to feel hungry. So it's gonna be super hard for you to identify your hunger fullness cues and therefore to eat correctly. Another really important habit that French people rarely do is force themselves to finish their food even if they're full. So here's what's left on my plate. I have a little bit of rice left, I have a little bit of my omelet left, and I don't want to force myself to finish because I'm not hungry anymore. And if this means that I'm gonna throw this away, then that's fine. If this means that I'm going to have to find a little container and put it in to eat as a leftover later on because I don't want to throw it away, that's fine too. As French people, we're very in tune with our bodies and we know when we're hungry, when we're full, and we don't like to push ourselves past fullness regardless of how much is left on our plate. That doesn't really matter. It's just about how we feel. It's almost seen as weird if you're like super full and you just keep pushing yourself to eat when you don't want to anymore, which again is a very, very common thing in the States. It's like you can't possibly waste food or money, or you have to get like the full experience. You need to force yourself to eat this entire pizza even if you don't want any more. I mean, don't get me wrong, of course food waste is not good, but I also think the very large portions in the US encourage this eating past fullness as a very standard thing because the portions are always going to be too big no matter what. So you kind of get used to pushing yourself in order to finish, or at least feel like you're getting your money's worth. And if this is your case, make sure that you're splitting your meals or that you're asking for it to go. You can do that. Another very rare thing in France is to eat the diet version of a food. In France, there's very little fear when it comes to foods, even if they are high in fat, like a bunch of cheeses, high in sugar, like a bunch of pastries. Something that's not common is to prefer the kind of diet version. And when I say diet version, it's because there's like a specific diet section in French grocery stores where you can find products like these. This one is diet because it has no gluten and it has no lactose in foods that would generally have gluten and lactose. Now, this brand specifically, they are known to make like healthy foods, healthy like biscuits, things like that, but this is the specific diet type. So a lot of French people like this brand, but they're not going to go get the diet version of it. Most French people would rather have a smaller portion of a food that is homemade, like a pastry or like a small little piece of cheese, and they would really rather enjoy that fully instead of eating more of the diet version. And in the US, it's the total opposite. People will buy gluten-free, dairy-free foods, and they will see that as a ticket to eating however many they want, because in their heads, it's like a diet food, so it's okay, you can just go ahead. In France, it's all about quality versus quantity, and foods that are marketed as healthier, low calorie, low gluten, low sugar, whatever, are often not seen as quality foods. Whereas again, in the US, foods like these are super popular, they are everywhere, and they are seen as the healthier alternative. And with that in mind, the danger is that you can eat a bunch of it because in your head, it's healthy. And actually, I bought these just for the video, so I'm gonna try one and see. The thing about it is that it's not bad, but it's definitely not good. It's not satisfying. It's a little dry. It's not fluffy or anything. It's just dry, as if it's been out for a super long time. And I just bought it, so. And also, just by eating these, I felt like they were super, super sugary. And that's the thing with diet foods a lot of the time, is that they have to compensate for what they're taking away. So they're gonna add in other things. Another one that's very rare in France is to rely on ready-made meals. Ready-made meals or takeout, ordering like Uber Eats, whatever. All of that is just not the norm in France at all. Even if you're very busy in France, you're gonna cook. Now, you're probably gonna make something very simple, sure, but it's really not the norm to just get a meal that's already made that you just have to put in the microwave, or to get food delivered. Like, very rarely will French people just have this reflex of getting food delivered to their door. It's something that they do if it's like a special occasion, like a little treat, or once in a while, but it's not an everyday occurrence. It's not like, oh, I don't know what to eat today, let me order something. Cooking is not really viewed as like this huge chore that takes up so much time. Of course, if you're making a very high quality meal with a bunch of different courses, yes, in this case, it's gonna take some time, but that's not an everyday occurrence. French people just know how to whip up something very quickly without having to make things too complicated, that they can still get in a meal that is pretty healthy, pretty balanced, tastes pretty good, pretty enjoyable, and they don't have to buy it ready-made. Whereas in the US, I feel like delivery apps are just so normal. When I would go to friends' houses, they would just order food usually. Like they wouldn't cook, they wouldn't do anything like that. In France, either you cook for your friends or everybody brings something and we all just eat like that. We're just not going to be ordering food off an app. Pizza is a little bit different. I guess we can order pizza, but then it's kind of like a pizza night. It's a special occasion. It's not like a random Tuesday. You decide that you're gonna be ordering food. That's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.